What is the Fruit Tree Planting Foundation and how's it doing?
I love the Fruit Tree Planting Foundation. I've been a fanatical planter all the years of my life, ever since I was a real small child. Even starting back, the earliest memories I have when I was around 5 years old, going around the neighborhood and renegade planting trees. No one even actually knew that. Not even my brothers, not anybody in my family. I never even shared that with anybody. And then one day I realized I have never actually told anybody that. Relatively recently, so it's part of my genetic makeup as being a tree planter. So I have to be planting trees all the time. And as a result of my entrepreneurship, I thought, well, I've got to have something that's going to give back. And I decided that the give back was going to be a foundation that planted trees. And I founded that foundation in 2002. And since that time, we've planted 1 million fruit, nut, and medicinal trees all over the world. And we had a huge year in 2020. I love my team so much. They're just incredible. In that crazy year of 2020, we actually planted 96,000 trees.
Do you eat a vegan diet? Do you eat a raw food diet? Do you eat an organic diet? Do you eat a whole food diet? How has your diet changed over the last 20 years?
I've been a vegetarian for over 30 years. I think 31 years now because we're in 2021. So 31 years, and I've been vegan most of that time. In fact, I think for a run of for sure around almost 20 years, I was vegan. And I'm a vegetarian now. I eat mostly raw foods. I ate only raw foods for 17 and a half years, only raw vegan foods actually. And then after a while, just my body, I was in Peru and my body was like, I was really heavily working it. Incan Trail, exploring the country, and I was up in this area. It's a highland valley up in the Andes. So you're going up maybe, I don't know, 8,000 feet, and then it drops off into a valley, an 8,000 foot high valley, and it's kind of a pampas grass, kind of a dry valley, and there's no way to survive there if you're a human being on the food that's there. But if you had an animal like a cow or a goat that could eat the pampa grass, then you could survive from the milk of that animal. And in that environment, I really wanted some of that cheese. It was a raw cheese, and it was like fluffy, and I was like, I want to eat that. My instinct told me to eat it, so I ate it, and it felt good. I hadn't eaten dairy products at that time in like 20 years. And it was the first time gone back to eating dairy products. Now I found out from that point on that I could eat dairy products as long as it's from like a wild animal, like in that type of situation. Like I can eat buffalo cheese. I can't eat cow cheese. No way. I can eat goat's cheese a little bit, but generally it doesn't really agree with me. I'm better off with, if it's like something wild, like a camel or camel cheese or something, I could do that. And so some of the Chinese herbs I'll do, like pearl. Pearl can be extracted from an oyster without killing the oyster, and that's how it's done now. Because that way you can get 3 or 4 oysters or 3 or 4 pearls out of the oyster in its lifetime, rather than killing the oyster, which is the way they did in the old days. So I'm cool with doing pearl calcium, which is one of my favorite supplements actually because of its history in Chinese medicine. So those are the kind of things that I do that are kind of quasi animal. But my main thing is I will do things that will, if they're from the animal world, it cannot involve. Oh, that was a big set going by there. It cannot involve killing. I don't want to eat anything that involves killing, and that's my main ethic.
Why don't you watch TV, and what are the benefits of not watching?
I stopped watching TV about 30 years ago, and there's nothing important on TV. There's no good advice on TV. I mean, I guess that's the best way to say it. I mean, I spent a lot of years doing television, doing live television to try to get something good and something educational, something nutritious on television, which we did. We did that successfully for quite a few years. But the general gist of TV, maybe it's 90%, maybe it's 99%. It's just not good advice. It's not good ideas and programming in your mind. For example, a lot of people like this show Black Mirror, which is really, it's dystopian programming. Like, we don't need these dystopian ideas in our mind. We need ideas that uplift society, uplift ourselves, uplift our families, that uplift our mood. And I generally found that I just couldn't go through the roller coaster of emotion that movies would take me through. I don't watch movies either. That's another one. And maybe I see one movie a year. And that's always a kind of a fun little escape. But I'd rather work. I'd rather do what I'm doing than do that. So people who say to me, I don't have enough time, you do have enough time. Just stop watching TV and movies. You'll have enough time.
Do you use a cell phone, and are you concerned about wireless technology?
I am very concerned about wireless technology. I do use a cell phone. Strangely, over the years, came up with this concept here of I don't ever hold the phone in my hand. That's terrible. I mean, so many people over the years, and probably you included, probably everybody who's listening right now has had a moment where you were holding your phone and you're like, this is just frying my hand, because you're actually in circuit with your phone. When you're touching that screen, you're in an electrical circuit with that phone, and it will irritate your joints, and sometimes you can get carpal tunnel problems. And I suspect that the real cause of carpal tunnel is just being fried by the electronics. So I try to use my computer when it's unplugged. If I'm using my phone, I don't have it plugged in. It's not plugged into a charger. This is something that I found out using voltmeters, that if you're plugged in, like if this computer and this phone are plugged in, it's crazy how much electromagnetic field is coming off of it. The worst actually is tablets. So in measuring different devices, computers, like this computer, when it's plugged in, if I touch this computer, it's going to give off somewhere around 9 to 12 volts. Phones are a little bit less, but tablets can be as high as 20 volts or more if they're plugged in. So if you're going to use these devices, always use them when they're in your hand or your child's hand. Make sure they're not plugged into the wall. Do not have anything plugged into the wall. When you're using them, you make sure that you're using some kind of a shielding. Like I use every kind of shungite. I've got 4 or 5 of them here. This one, this one, this one, this one, and one under this one actually. And the case itself, shungite shielding mostly, a few other items that are in there. And just to have something to mitigate the electromagnetic field. Now, people ask me which ones work. I don't know which ones work. I suspect shungite works as good as anything, but I like as many different devices on my phone as possible, just because I don't know. I'd rather have something that works a little bit than nothing that works nothing. Another thing too about electromagnetic devices, and I learned this in engineering school, it's just a key idea, is that the distance you are away from it is the most important way to protect yourself. So if I can be on my phone, that's why I have it on a stand. I can just be sitting here talking to someone on my phone. I don't have to touch it. It's over there. They can hear me, and I'm not near it. The radiation off of your computer, your tablet, and your phone attenuates at the square of the distance. So it attenuates very quickly. It drops off quickly. So the further you are away, the safer you are. If you're driving in your car, maybe you want to have your phone in the passenger seat and talking that way, or in a clip over here somewhere. So it's just not, you don't want to ever do this. And I will add one more thing about this too. In measuring these devices, one of the worst issues is when you turn the phone on and it makes that handshake with the tower, there's a spike in the radiation off of your phone. And so my real strong recommendation is when you turn that on, just keep it over there for a second until it makes the handshake before you even use it at all. Don't have it in your hand. Like I'll just turn on and I'll step away. And then as soon as I see it's got the handshake, I'll go, okay, then I'll get closer to it. So that's another thing I wanted to add in.
What are your thoughts on 5G wireless technology?
5G wireless technology is very high intensity radiation, and that's why we have to have so many of them close together in these inner city environments where they're being rolled out. The reason why you need so many is because it's only going to go about 200 meters, and then it's going to be attenuated by the walls and the brick and the materials of the buildings, the steel, etc., the cement. So that kind of wireless is very high intensity, but again, attenuates quickly. I generally don't want to be around 5G. So it's high intensity radiation. Now, what they're going to tell you is that, oh, no, this is for you to be able to download movies or your phones to work better. I'd be surprised if anybody was in a 5G environment where your phone actually was faster. My phone's not faster in a 5G environment, like in downtown Toronto or New York or wherever these 5G towers are rolled out and it shows 5G on my phone. It's not faster. So there's other things that are going on. What they really want to do is they want to roll out the Internet of Things. So they want to bathe you in even more wireless radiation so that your coffee maker, your phone, your tablet, your television, your washing machine, your dishwasher is all on the internet and all going through the 5G network so it can handle the bandwidth of that. I think that's the real goal of it all. Now that right there is just, they're going to keep going with this until we say stop. It's going to, right, we need some kind of, in the Dune books, they called, if you remember Frank Herbert's Dune, famous science fiction book series, they had an idea of what was called a Butlerian jihad, which was at some point the technology got to a point where they're like, you shall make no computer in the image of a human brain. So they began to start pushing back on the technology because it was an affront on our own biology, which is what we're seeing today with the radiation exposure. Therefore, we're going to need at some point a new Nuremberg trials where these people are just getting away with all kinds of affronts against our biology, even though they know that that much Wi-Fi, that much radiation, that the cell phone being right here is harmful to biological tissue. That's been known all along. They don't care. They keep rolling out more and more and more of it anyway. So at some point, we're going to need some kind of a Nuremberg 2.0, or we're going to need some kind of a world summit where we say, hey, that's enough. It's over. Now, that could happen in the upcoming run of because we're kind of in a runaway moment of evil right now, where they're just going to try to get away with anything. They're going to try to pass any law that's going to cause any ability to, the government can just steal whatever they want, get away with whatever they want. All over the world this is happening, and that tells us that this is a centralized UN, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization plan or plot to be able to basically push the boundaries. They're going to push the boundaries all the way. We can eject you 3 times a year. We can do this. We can do that. And it's just going too far. So it's going to come to a head in our lifetime. And hopefully it's going to end in a way where we do have a Butlerian jihad, where we suddenly say, hey, we're going to actually we're going to codify for the world new human rights of privacy. That's a big one, right? Because when you got 5G all around you and you got everything on the internet all around you, you don't have any privacy. They know exactly when you're using the restroom. They know exactly when you're in the shower. They know when that dishwasher's on. They know how much internet you're using. They know where you're going on the internet, etc. So those are some ideas that come up on that. This kind of idea of having a world conference that sets this standard of human rights, a new standard of digital human rights, is coming. So I want people to start thinking about it.